to Sugar Mama's Fire Play, the place where we ignite your financial independence, retire early dreams, and empower you to live a life on your own terms. Now, for the last 10 years, I have been doing my annual Frugal February challenge. And that is where, for 28 days straight, I am the world's biggest tight ass. And I literally say that with a mixture of love and hatred. Now, every dollar that I manage to save from being super frugal for the month of February goes towards the $1,000 project, which is my diversified share portfolio that I've literally built $1,000 at a time. And today, that portfolio, I can proudly share with you, is worth over $300,000. But even more importantly, and makes me even prouder, is the fact that it pays me a passive income stream of over $14,000 a year via dividends, a majority of which are fully franked dividends, so they come with some very sexy tax credits. Now, this year, I decided to do something different for Frugal February, and it was met with mixed emotions because I know a lot of people, both in Australia and around the world, follow along with this because it often is a great financial reset coming off the back of Christmas time and school holidays where we have maybe burnt through our budgets and maybe left with a little bit of credit card debt. So a lot of people I know really look forward to this particular challenge, but let's be honest, we've actually all been living really frugally for the last 18 to 24 months. The rising cost of living, interest rate hikes, and it's not just been about trying to get ahead financially over the last couple of years, but instead it's actually been more about just trying to stay afloat financially for the last couple of years. It has been utterly exhausting, and it has felt like a major frugal burnout. Well, for me at least, it definitely has, and I have a feeling I'm not alone. So this year, I decided to flip the script on Frugal February. And don't worry, the traditional Frugal February will be back next year, I promise. But for this year, I just needed to do something different. So instead of just focusing on cutting back, I focused on the things that actually fill my soul, make me feel rich inside. And I nicknamed this Fun Frugal February. So in today's episode, I want to share with you my insights, what I learned, my evolution, and my results. How much money did I really save and how do I feel about this? So sit back, relax, or if you're walking and doing some exercise, enjoy this episode and enjoy with me what I'm about to share with you because I have a feeling that you'll find this really meaningful too. So the shift from deprivation to fulfillment. So this year I set out to answer a new question for myself. As I said, I wanted to go deeper with my Frugal February challenge. So I wanted to ask myself, how frugal can I still be whilst also at the same time bringing more joy, bringing more meaningful wealth and a deeper connection into my life? And this is what I discovered while being intentional and paying attention to my frugal ways of February. So number one, baking at home. So instead of spending money on treats that I often get caught in the trap and the habit of, I did so much more baking with my kids. And in being more intentional and paying attention, I actually realized there was so much more joy in doing this. It wasn't just about saving money. There was joy in the mess, the chaos, the smells, the taste testing where my kids licked the spoon and got food all over their face and their clothes, but we just laughed hysterically. And just the experience of doing things together, but doing things that are creative together. And let's be honest, homemade cooking always tastes way better than those store-bought ones. Next thing was eating up the leftovers. Yes, I do this always. Well, I should admit, I try and do this always. Let me explain. And again, I want to really focus on the word intention and attention for this particular episode. So usually leftovers feel like the sad second choice meal. You know, they're pushed to the back of the fridge. You may not get to them in time, which is sometimes something I do, even though I have the best intentions of eating it for lunch or using it to fill up a meal. But this time I decided to stop that from happening and I reframed it. So every time I repurposed food and reduced waste, I made sure I paid attention to the deep satisfaction that I actually had within myself. You know, it wasn't actually just about saving money by reducing my landfill and the leftovers, but it was about being more resourceful and mindful. And I have to say, I included my dogs in this. So they got, some of the leftovers that I couldn't eat, and they absolutely loved it. And watching my dogs eat up the leftover vegetables from the night before. Felt really good, and I felt even a deeper connection to them, which I know sounds a little bit crazy, but this is a bit of a different challenge this year. Next thing is playing outside amongst Mother Nature in the park. Now, I admit I used to feel the need, and this is my own insecurity around being a mother and motherhood and trying to do my best job and make sure that my kids, look back and go, oh, you had the best mum ever. So I am guilty of, taking my kids to the movies, and I will admit to a certain degree sometimes throwing money at the problem to entertain them. So, and this includes amusement parks, special events. But this month, I didn't do any of those things. I changed those things where I would normally take them to an arcade or movies or, something like, bounce or, any sort of treat. I saw firsthand that simply being present is actually enough. Kicking a ball around the park, having a picnic together, dancing to music, or rolling down the hill amongst the grass, just being there, being present, laughing with them, connecting with them, listening to them, talking in their language and getting down on their level. That's really actually what they want. Not throwing money at a need or a problem. And to be honest, sometimes I catch myself trying to work so hard to make them feel happy and busy and entertained, particularly during school holidays, that I'm actually exhausting them by dragging them from pillar to post around Sydney, finding the best and latest, entertainment factor for them. And I do this a lot. I don't actually need to do that. And they actually don't necessarily want to do that. Yes, it is fun, but these are actually special treats for special times of the year, like birthdays or when they, achieve something important, like a pass on an exam or, getting through a project or just simply ending a year of school. So for me, I'm going to be spending a lot more time being way more present, just hanging out with my kids. Now, the next thing that brings me to this, and this is a very similar topic, is having one-on-one time with my kids. Now, this is something Tom always bangs on about, the importance, and I'm listening and agreeing, but I'm not really listening and agreeing. Well, until now. We have a busy household. Tom and I both work for ourselves, and, Tom travels a lot, so I do a lot of solo parenting, and we've got 3 kids with 3 different routines in 3 different schools, so I'm running across Sydney a lot, and we've got 3 big dogs as well that need a lot of exercise. So my kids are always sharing and sometimes fighting for my attention, but taking just one child at a time for a walk, for a chat, hanging out on the sofa, a tickle fight, doing some role play together, a back scratch or bedtime story. These moments, when I paid attention and was intentional with creating these moments, actually felt so much more special and connected. And they cost absolutely nothing. And I could see the return of my investment in time and effort and energy in my kids' faces. Their smile was bigger. Their look at me was far deeper. Looking at me in the eyes and smiling felt very different to what it is any other time before. And for me, this has made me realize going forward from doing Fun Frugal February, I'm prioritizing this and it's going straight to the top of my list of family needs and goals. Next thing is morning walks. Now, every morning I walk my 3 dogs, Giuseppe, Peppy, and Tulip. It's part of my routine and it's something I really love. It's not a chore for me at all. But doing this challenge actually really made me slow down and appreciate it so much more and notice the little things that happen on my walk that actually make it so beautiful and so special. Little things like the warmth of the sun on my face, the crisp morning air, seeing my dog's ears flapping as they're walking to keep up with me or walking ahead, seeing their faces and their tongues hanging out and they're panting, watching them go and smell things and meet other dogs with curiosity and discovering new bushes that they can smell, and watching my dog Giuseppe find another tennis ball, this time not just look at him discover a ball, but looking at the pride and satisfaction in his face as he jumped out of the bushes with a new tennis ball that he just discovered for me to go and throw. Slowing down, throwing that tennis ball not just a few times, but a few extra times for an extra bit of fun. Really slowing down. And it made me realize how grateful I am actually for my health and my movement of my body, that I am healthy and strong enough to be able to go for a walk. I have that opportunity to get out and go for a walk somewhere that's safe and safely let my dogs enjoy some lead-free time and speak to people in my neighborhood, get to meet new people. This particular awareness of being intentional and paying attention made me feel so much more present, but also so much more alive and grateful to be alive. Next thing I realized from doing Fun Frugal February is saying yes to invitations. Now, normally Frugal February for me means saying no to dining out, with the exception of my best friend's birthday, might I add. But this time I said yes to an early Sunday night dinner at our local bowling club with 2 other families. Now, it's funny, old habits die hard, because when I saw the text message come through about this invitation, I immediately was like, no, I can't, February. But then I was like, hang on, no, back it up. This time you have permission to say yes. And I'm so glad I said yes, because it was such a wonderful, wholesome catch up with 2 other families. The kids at the bowling club, and I'd never actually even been to this bowling club before, I don't know why, and again, this was one of the other many blessings that came from doing this challenge, is the kids were running around. There were about, I think, 7 or 8 kids, and they were running around like hooligans, safely having so much fun together, whilst all the adults, we all sat down together having a great laugh and be able to have conversations that weren't being interrupted. And when they were interrupted, it was because the kids wanted to go and do something else that they discovered to have fun. They weren't on screens, they weren't on devices, they were just all having fun together, and seeing a really healthy mix of different ages as well made me realize how grateful I am for my children and for my friends' children as well, that they can all get on so nicely together and play and use their imaginations and get creative. And it also felt really good to support a local business while enjoying a really simple night out. And then finally, exercising. Exercising actually for free. Now, often I catch myself looking online, particularly social media, for the latest trends, the latest gyms that have opened up in my area, even like exercise gadgets. I have shared recently on how do they afford that. I spent a fortune on a cellulite machine. I got it trapped into an Instagram ad, so I'm just as vulnerable to those temptations as everyone else is. But anyway, as I said, sometimes I feel victim of the temptation to sign up to something that's new and flashy and, to be one of the first people that gets to try it out and let people know what I really thought of it. However, during this challenge, I actually did most of my exercise in my local free outdoor gym. I would use YouTube videos to give me a guide as to a good workout, and this cost absolutely nothing. And as a result of this, I actually found myself exercising more and actually feeling so much more proud of myself from doing my own workout, feeling good, paying attention to what muscles were working, how much I was really sweating, and whether I felt satisfied enough to go, you know what, this is a decent workout, rather than just going to an exercise class or going to the gym or even training with my trainer and just kind of ticking a box. Being intentional and paying attention to what was going on during this particular challenge made me actually work harder on my body, respect it, and be more respectful and efficient with my time. A challenge within a challenge, my unexpected health scare. So halfway during this particular challenge, Fun Frugal February, I got really sick. I developed this really nasty, rapidly spreading rash. Blisters, non-stop itching, like welts, and literally would keep me up all night going mental, scratching. I couldn't stop. I had no self-control, and it was spreading up around my body and up the center of my chest and was heading towards my neck. And along with this was not only sleep deprivation, but a fever that went for 5 days straight. I was literally dripping in sweat, and it was absolutely disgusting. Now, it took 4 doctors and 4 different doctor's appointments and multiple mixes of medications to actually get me better again and to figure out what was really going on. It was stressful, it was incredibly expensive, and it was also really embarrassing because I had to keep my distance from people because they weren't sure yet whether I was contagious or not, and I had these huge, nasty, pussy blisters around my body and creeping up my chest towards my neck. Now, thank goodness I was doing this challenge in a different way this time, because I'm embarrassed to admit this, I may have actually delayed going to the doctors, which is really concerning. As it turned out, luckily we did figure out what was going on to it, and I got a huge dose of 2 different types of strong medication to quickly shut it down and stop it from spreading. So this actually really helped me shift my perspective. So instead of dwelling on the cost and frustration, which I would have done if I was doing my traditional typical Frugal February, I reminded myself that I'm actually really lucky to have access to doctors, good quality doctors. I'm also really lucky to be able to afford medication. And my body is healing. And what was going on was only temporary, even though I was feeling flat, deflated, and incredibly frustrated. Doing Fun Frugal February really helped protect my mindset and also helped me shift, which for me was huge because I could have easily gone down a bit of a downward spiral. So I'm grateful for that. So what did this challenge really teach me? Well, I didn't realize actually how much I needed this version of Frugal February until I was in the thick of it. It showed me that frugality isn't just about money. It's actually about deep, intentional mindfulness that we pay attention to. It's about slowing down, allowing us to see the beauty in those everyday moments, those simple everyday moments. And of course, the connection doesn't cost a cent, and it is actually priceless when you do hit it correctly. Those moments when I actually realize the difference in smiles in my children's face, when I'm present, when I've slowed down, when I'm properly listening, and I'm not surrounded by distractions. So for me, I've realized that I actually have everything that I need. And creatively embracing zero waste and using what we already have around us and around myself is actually so much more satisfying than any purchase that can possibly deliver in my life right now. So intentional gratitude is game changing if you want to have a go at doing this for yourself and really need to shift your own mood. So my biggest lesson, I have to say, has got to be being frugal shouldn't actually feel like deprivation. It feels like empowerment when you do it correctly with intention and attention. And whilst I barely saved any money this year than my previous years, and I will share with you that I had, I think, $20 left in our family account, which I didn't even bother transferring to the $1,000 project portfolio this year, I actually felt a far deeper sense of pride in my results. This challenge taught me that what really truly fills me up and what really makes me feel like a fun, present parent, what brings me genuine happiness and what creates long-lasting moments of connection and joy. So if you're listening to this episode and you normally do Frugal February, or you did a different type of Frugal February, or you've been doing something similar like this where you've been slowing down and spending more time investing in what you're grateful for, I'd actually love to hear from you. And if you've been doing something that's frugal, that has genuinely brought more joy in your life, please let me know. I would love to hear, and I'd love to be able to share that with everyone else who's listening right now. And also I'd love to hear, have you ever experienced frugal burnout? Please tell me I'm not alone. Send me a DM on Instagram and let me know. Now, thank you everyone so much for listening. And thank you everyone who's been so patient. And thank you for everyone who's been so understanding in doing Frugal February this year differently. As I said, I promise to bring the traditional, typical Frugal February next year. But for me, I'm actually so glad that I did this. And perhaps we can find a way of bringing these two different concepts into next year's transformation as we look at the way that we spend money, use money, build money, and invest money. Now, in the meantime, as always, keep that financial fire burning bright, and I'll connect with you next Monday morning at 5 a.m. Rain, hail, or shine. Ciao for now.